before empires, before the spread of a new civilization, before Arabia changed forever. There was a valley, a moment of truth, a test that would shape the destiny of a rising community. This is March Through History. The story of Badr did not begin with swords. It began with loss. The Muslims of Mecca were driven out of their city, their homes seized, their wealth taken, their families threatened, their identity outlawed. When they reached Medina, they arrived with almost nothing, except their resolve. But the Quraysh did not leave them in peace. Pressure grew. Trade routes tightened. Hostility followed them across the desert. So when a wealthy Meccan caravan, carrying goods taken from the very people who had been expelled, passed near Medina, the Muslims moved to intercept it, not out of greed, but out of justice, a strategic attempt to reclaim what had been taken from them. The caravan escaped, and Mecca answered with force. What marched out of Mecca was not a warning. It was an army determined to crush the community it once expelled. The march toward Badr had begun. The Muslims marched with barely more than 300 men, few horses, limited armor, fewer provisions. But in the desert, morale matters more than metal, discipline more than numbers, position more than pride. They were not trained soldiers. They were farmers, shepherds, tradesmen, bound together by a cause greater than themselves. Badr was more than open desert. It was a natural fortress. High ground to the north, narrow passes to the west, and most importantly, water. The Muslims reached the wells first. Control of water meant control of movement. Control of movement meant control of the battle. The Quraysh would face them thirsty, tired, and strategically constrained. On the morning of the 17th of Ramadan, two armies formed their lines. One, larger, well-armed, confident. The other, disciplined, unified, resolved. Silence stretched across the valley. The wind waited. Arabian battles began with single combat, a tradition of honor, a measure of strength. The Quraysh sent forth their finest, Utbah, Shayba, and Walid ibn Utbah. 3 Muslims stepped forward to meet them. Ubaidah ibn al-Harith, experienced, steady, dignified. Hamza ibn Abd al-Muttalib, fierce, commanding, unstoppable. And Al ibn Abi Talib, young, fast, precise, fearless. Steel shattered the stillness. 3 duels erupted across the valley. And one by one, the champions of Quraysh fell. For the Muslims, it was a surge of confidence. For the Quraysh, a chilling sign. The lines closed. The battle truly began. The Quraysh advanced in a wave of armor and dust, a force confident in its numbers. The Muslims stood firm, shields locked, formation tight. Their line did not break. The first shock hit hard. Steel tore through shields. The desert echoed with the sounds of war. But the smaller army held its ground. The Quraysh relied on overwhelming force. The Muslims relied on discipline and the terrain. The ground beneath the enemy cavalry softened their charge. The wells behind the Muslim line anchored it. The heat weighed heavily on those who marched long in armor. Momentum shifted. What the Quraysh expected to be a swift victory became a grinding struggle. And then, a break. Their center wavered. Their flanks faltered. Command scattered. Retreat followed. The valley was claimed. When the dust settled, a smaller force had defeated Arabia's strongest tribe, not through wealth, not through superior weapons, but through unity, discipline, leadership, and the ability to adapt in the heat of battle. Badr was not just a victory. It was a message, a statement that this new community would endure. The Battle of Badr did not mark the rise to power. It marked the rise in confidence. A people once driven from their city now stood their ground. A community once struggling to survive now proved its strength. History remembers Badr not for its size, but for its impact. A turning point in the story of a nation still in its beginning. But victory can be a teacher, and so can defeat. 1 year later, another army would march, another battlefield would call, and the lessons of discipline, the strength of Badr, would be tested in a way no one could foresee. A mountain, a mistake, a battle that would carve itself into memory. The Battle of Uhud, coming soon on March Through History.